What is something that you actually remember being new technology, but is now obsolete? Basically, 95% of the responses. I remember when teachers were banning those watches with a calculator on them. I remember when handheld calculators hadn't been invented yet, and the only adding machines were electromechanical. My friend wore one, but every math teacher he had would make him take it off. 1 gig hard drive. I was at a computer store in 1995 and they were talking about the future, how there will be 1 gig hard drives and how no one in an entire lifetime would ever be able to fill up a 1 gig hard drive. I remember in 2008 picking up some 1 terabyte drives for $150 each. 13 years later one can only buy an 8 terabytes drive at the same price point. Technology has definitely slowed down a lot in some areas. But in terms of SSD drives, it's gotten way cheaper. In 2012 I bought a 128 gigabits SSD for like $300. And was pumped. It was so fast. I bought a TB1 for $120 this Christmas. Around 1998-ish I saw a 0.5 terabytes hard drive that was literally just a shelf of 50 other physically massive 10 gigabytes regular old magnetic disk hard drives. There was a little elevator that would slowly and carefully pick a drive and move it to a port where you could access it. One at a time. Thank God technology has progressed. It was good for a laugh, though. What's the most fucked up thing someone has told you about themselves after barely getting to know them? Hitchhiking through New Zealand, I got picked up by a semi-driver. Awesome guy, but an hour into the drive started unloading every bit of personal information he could. How he's cheated on his wife, screwed the company out of money, stolen items. It was like I was a priest in a confession booth. When I asked him why he told me all of that, he said it's been eating him up inside for years and telling me help get it off of his chest. He said I had no idea who he or anyone he knew was, so it felt like I was the perfect person to unload on. I mean, you can't argue with his logic. Y'all will probably never see each other again, so he's safe from repercussions. Yesterday I was walking with a friend of a friend after my friend left me. He started telling me benefits of nofap and his pervertness out of nowhere, like telling me how it had affected him and his life personally. He told me how he masturbated in a train sitting with all his friends in such a way nobody noticed. Then he goes on telling me how he asked his father for help, for which his father asked him to drink buttermilk because apparently it reduces the addiction. Unrelated to the post but relevant to your comment. When I was in the 8th grade there was this weird kid who sat next to me, as in we shared a table, and he would blatantly jack off in class every day. He would put his hand in his pocket and go to town, or when he got brave he would just put his arm down on top of his junk on his lap, not inside the pants, literally just sat his arm on top, and would grind. It was terrible. I awkwardly told my teacher multiple times, as all my classmates laughed because it was an awkward thing, but nothing ever got done about it. And this was like 2009 or so. The teacher didn't wanna touch that whole shit show with a 10-foot pole. I think she ended up putting him in a table by himself, but he still beat his meat every day during 5th period. Ryan, if you're reading this, you're a nasty freak, and Mrs. Otto, you need to grow a backbone so your 8th graders aren't exposed to a soft-core porn scene. FFs. She has quiet conversation with him about appropriateness. He denies doing anything or plays dumb. It continues, she calls in parents and tells them that he appears to be masturbating in class. They say they spoke to him and he denies it and she must be sick for even thinking this. What proof does she have, etc. She gives up. He continues shuffling the prawn. What is the ugliest city you have ever visited? Bakersfield, California. Stayed at the Vagabond Inn, literal crack den and prostitution shop. Holy shit, I stayed there once too. There was literally a bullet, cigarette butts and a cockroach in the room. I passed through Bakersfield and some dude begged me to go into the liquor store to get him a pint of vodka because he had no ID. I gave in and did it, and when I came out and gave him the bottle and asked him for the money he handed me a bag of meth. Not cool. I went there once to visit my wife's cousin. He and his wife and kids were nice enough, but the city Would not recommend. It feels like someone in an office decided there should be a city there and now everybody who lives there wonders why. Okay. Blackpool has earned its rep as the pinnacle of British puke-stained coastline, but go a bit further up the coast and you have Morecambe, which is so depressed it couldn't keep its amusement park open, and nobody under 40 seems to live there. I bet everybody leaves home for Blackpool.